Hello again. Welcome to part two. Well, I've kind of got something that I want to draw here, and I'm going to show it to you again, and I'm going to say just another couple things about composition because it need not be emphasized enough. I don't think it can be emphasized enough, is what I'm trying to say. The the work you do on this, fussing with how it looks, where the light is, what your composition is communicating in terms of content, this work is not wasted work. This is the work, right? Because now you're just going to draw it. It's getting to be like it's half done, right? So what I'm going to show you next is a little issue of how much of it am I going to draw, right? So let's move to back to the other camera angle. Here we go. Now, I said don't do more than 2 or 3 items, and then of course I did 5, which just goes to show you what I'm expecting. I'm expecting you to hear me, understand why I'm saying don't do too many objects, and then I welcome you to break the rules. Okay, and now, right now, one of the problems is the camera's point of view is not my point of view. This is a bit of a problem. What I'm seeing from where I'm standing, kind of down over here, is I'm seeing a lot of shadow down at the bottom, but what you see up there is not much shadow. And that's an unfortunate artifact of, or effect of trying to teach this way. We're just going to have to live with that. So when you see me drawing, or whatever I draw is maybe not going to look that much like that to you. Does that make sense? But to me, there's a pretty big piece of shadow down here, and it has some reflected red in it, or deepest burgundy red. And these are actually going to be, I'm not sure they're going to make a great drawing, but I want to try them anyway. Why are they maybe not going to make a great drawing? Because they're pretty dark. They're going to probably look like sort of dark blobby holes in my picture plane, right? But that's okay. We're going to do it that way anyway. And I put them in this horizontal line. Why? Because I remembered I wanted to say one more thing about composition. And that is this, and maybe I've even said it already. Um, there are two kind of first decisions, right, that you make. It's what size is your picture plane? What size, or what shape rather? What format is your original space? This window into the art, right? This piece of visual world going to be, right? It could be round, although I never bother with that. It's hard to frame and they're kind of annoying, right? But you could make it round, you could make it triangular, but the most common shape is something on the square or rectangle scheme, right? End of the spectrum. But there's basically, so now you've decided you kind of want it to be like that, let's say. You've given some thought to triangle, you've given some thought to circle, you've left them in the dust. It's just you now, and is it going to be a square, which has a kind of sends a message that's kind of, and by square I mean like, is it going to be the same distance on both sides? Where am I starting my drawing? Is there going to be a truncated cherry? Are both cherries going to hit the side of the drawing, and then it's going to have a different message, kind of like a line through it that really bifurcates the whole drawing? Are they going to be really tiny and there's going to be a ton of negative or open space around them? What's going to happen? I haven't decided yet, but that's the kind of thing you want to be thinking about. And I have decided, one thing I have done, let's talk about what I have decided. I have decided I want it to be horizontal. I'm not going to make it a square. I'm going to make it I'm going to orient my paper like this. I'm going to make a horizontal composition. Basically, there are sort of two ways I could go, right, with this piece of paper, and I could cut it out too. I don't have to keep it this big. Don't always feel like you have to work with what you're given. But if it's a vertical, it tends to confront and to make the viewer feel confronted, not negatively, just like, oh yeah, that's like another being, another body, right? That's like, it's got a vertical orientation, it's confronting me. If you see something horizontally like this, what is that obviously going to suggest to you? Horizon. It's going to look like a landscape. And these compositions tend to be less, they don't confront the viewer in the same way. If it can be said that they are a little less in your face, a little less strong, they're inviting you to join in the view in a way, whereas sometimes a vertical composition, it does not invite you to join in a view, right? Because it ends right here, right? So these, even something as simple as how you orient your paper is communicating something to the viewer. It can't be over emphasized that every little move you make is telling the viewer something, whether you know it or not. And I don't mean to say that you need to keep track of all of these things and always know what you're telling everybody, but it's something to notice. You should notice it as a viewer. That's the best way. Go into looking at a piece of art or just view out the window and say, what is it telling me? What do I feel from this, right? Is this telling me, is this inviting me to come into this horizontal plane? Is it inviting me to look far out? Is it way up front and inviting me to feel intimate about it, right? What's happening in this picture? So the more you notice it as a viewer yourself, the more easily you'll be able to identify it when you are producing it, when you're making your artwork. Okay, let's take a no, let's start. Let's keep going. All right, what am I going to do? This is that terrible moment where you have to start, and I guess I'm not sure. I think I want no, I think they're not going to touch the edge. I'm not sure, but I want something. I've got nothing right now, and what I want is to further um, to further define rather my picture plate, my area that I'm going to put my drawing into. If you're working at home, I apologize. I know this has now gotten very large. You've got fruit all over the table. You've got lights over here. Things are plugged in all over the place. And you better have some music on because you're going to need to really check your critical analysis for a while because there's going to be times when this thing looks maybe even hopeless. So just put that part of yourself aside and have some music on or something. But what I want to do here is I don't want to just think of this I don't want to draw out to this edge. That's just going to be messy and annoying. You know how messy pastel is. I want to keep it in a little. So I'm going to say that my drawing is going to happen and this is a great way to begin any drawing or painting, is to say, you're kind of saying, this space is mine. I'm working in here, right? You've already got 4 lines, and now everything else I put on here is going to relate to those 4 lines. So if I were to put the cherries, and I'm just going to do it, but then I don't know if I'm going to stick with it, way up here, and I'm just going to kind of put them in a really rough way, right? I'm not committing to these cherries, to drawing them. But if I were to put them way up here and see how that one essentially went right off the edge, right? That is completely different than if I'd stuck them down here, right? Like almost like they were a sign, right? Like saying something. Like having them way up here and all this open space says something very different than if they were way down at the bottom. And am I going to leave them there? I don't know. It looks a little too high. And remember, I said I was going to have them all and they weren't going to go off the edge. So I think maybe I'm going to move them down. Maybe I'll move them down and over. This is a good place, this is a place where I'm also going to make them a little bigger. And that's just another thing. Scale is so important here, right? What if I made these cherries huge? What if it was like a cherry that is like the size of an apple? That tells your viewer that they've suddenly gotten very small, right? I'm going to kind of go with life size. Who knows why? I just feel it today. But like I say, I'm not even getting them quite right life size. Don't worry too much. Why am I using white? Just because I'm not really committing to it yet. So a little white because I can see it on here. You could use a pencil. It doesn't really matter what you use to kind of get your, orient yourself to start with. Do you notice that I do this? That like I'm trying to talk and then I'm trying to draw and I can't really do both. If I'm moving my hand, I have to stop talking. That's a kind of an odd thing. I guess I can't walk and chew gum, as they say, at the same time. Ooh, way too big, but that's okay. Now this is a place, again, I don't want you to do a lot of that, what I just did smushing there. But right now, since I'm just trying to like, oh wow, totally wrong line, right? I want it to go more like that. Right now, it's fine to smush the drawing around, right? Because we're just finding where we are at, right? But later, I am not going to want to see you guys smushing your fingers too much, not too much blending. And we're going to try to avoid that, just like the last time. Then kind of after this, I want you to use pastel whenever you want to, on whatever projects you want to, and you will be I'll let you do it the way you feel is best. We'll end our contract, right? It's okay. We can't stay like this forever where I tell you what to do. That's just not going to work. So here I am again in the same old problem, right? That fifth one is not going to fit on here. So do I care about that or not? I don't know yet. I got to think about it. All right. So I kind of have an idea here. I don't think I like it. No, I'm going to change it. So if you use a light color, and I could even have used gray, like white or gray, it's not really going to interfere much with when I go to move these things. So this time, no, see the gray is almost too hard to see. Forget that. Let's use this weird Naples yellow over here. I like this. Okay, now I'm going to start way close and see if I can't manage to get that. See, it's real close anyway. No wonder I'm having so much trouble. Anyway, I'm going to try again to get this on here. Now, why do I show you all this? You know, you're probably thinking, okay, I'll just go get drawing. I don't need to see this. What are you doing? You know, I know, I get it. But I guess I'm showing it to you so that you understand that I'm still making decisions. You know, I could even say right now, I could say, this is stupid. I don't even like this line. I'm getting rid of 4 of those cherries and making 2, right? I'm still not committed fully to spending the next couple of hours on getting this done. And I don't know if it'll even take that long, but I'm imagining it would. So I really want, this is the place in which to decide, right? This is where it's easy to make changes. Later, it won't be so easy. Another thing, when I ask people to draw from observation, which is what we're doing, and local color, which means you're going to make these things the color they appear to be, I've noticed that I get into a thing, right? There's often a thing where people are a little bit overwhelmed by the task. And because really it's hard, and because you're going to be working on it and you're going to suddenly snap into that critical side of yourself and you're going to go, these don't look like cherries at all. They look like just yellow blobs at this point, and I don't know what I'm doing, and maybe I should start over. But I don't want you to start over at that point. I want you to go onwards anyway. Take it on faith. And I also want you not to worry that we know they're cherries and we could take a photo if we had to know. So don't worry if things get to looking, I don't know, what was that? If they get to looking really different than your still life, that's okay, right? It's all right. You're gonna deviate at some point a little bit from what you see, and that's fine. Don't stop though right away. Now I'm going to be all attached to this stem that's coming in from there, and it's not going to be in the drawing. And now I wish they were up higher, and am I going to change that? No, probably not. But I might move that line down, right? I might decide I'm going to stop my drawing a little higher up there. Okay, what did I tell you? I said, don't only draw the objects. I said, deal with the space as well, like it's just as important, because it is just as important. But what have I done? All I've done is sort of outline these cherries in a very like I'm drawing way, right? I don't want it to look like that ultimately. I want you to know where you're at, to sort of find yourself on here, but then I want you to kind of abandon that. Stop thinking about them as cherries. We don't draw well when we think symbolically. We draw when we think symbolically, like I know what a cherry looks like. I don't even need to see one. I just put this and this and a stick thing out of the top and the stem, and I'm done. What we do there, that's like a verbal kind of our mind, it's a language part of your mind, and it loves a symbol, and it loves to make it as simple and as possible, right? So because that's the shorthand, right? That's the most efficient way to communicate. So your mind, if you're thinking cherry, 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 cherry in that way, you're going to be drawing symbol, 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 and you are not going to it won't be as easy to appreciate and record the delicate differences in shade and color. And that's really what we're here for, is color, right? And value. So don't worry about what they are, right? Just think there's a curve there that I think is kind of a little bit deeper down here. try not to use even the words in your mind. I think that's helpful. Okay, so now what next? Now I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there's all this space with nothing in it. What am I going to do? Well, I don't want there to be nothing in it. I guess I want to kind of deal with these shadows, and I think I want to use a different color for that, maybe. And my shadows definitely look kind of blue to me, but not the color of any of these pastels. So I'm just going to have to take one and hope that it looks, ooh, and there's a double shadow. I've really got trouble there. That's going to be tricky to draw. Oh well, should have noticed it before when I was setting it up. I'm going to just sort of try to get, yeah, that like that. Yeah. Now, I don't really need to make these shadows a different color. And in a traditional painting situation, you would work out your whole underpainting in like just in terms of value with like a burnt umber. You wouldn't bring in any color. I don't really even know why I decided to start with the blue already here, but I did. And my stem right on this one is very close to the paper, so my shadow is kind of right under it. You only see a little bit of that shadow. And then there's a shadow here, right? And this stuff is real fluid, right? And that's fine at this point. Just let it move around. It's okay if it moves all over the place. Just let it do that. Because we're not committed yet. Not too much anyway. Now I see. What happens is when you start to think about the shadow, when you start working on the shadow as another shape, you realize that your first shape wasn't right either. You see them, you see the two together and they make, I don't know why I'm changing color because it really doesn't matter at this point, but let's pretend it did. Oh, I did, that's not right either. I'm gonna just have to come back to that and kind of fix it later. I think I lost my train of thought there. Sorry about that. Okay, let us continue here and hope for the best. This one has a very faint shadow that kind of crosses under there because it is very far from the paper, so it's more diffuse. And this is a very strong shadow, very crispy one. Whoops, too wide of a line. Oh well. That's going to be the underneath. Whoop, nope. That's the underneath part. This is going to be the outside one. Whoop, that doesn't belong there. Okay, now that's that. Now what? Well, what am I going to do with all this white? I don't want it to be white. I want to relate to these. So I think it should have some of the same colors. It could have like a real strong directional flow, and I think I'm going to kind of deal with that. This thing is on a table, so I'm going to try to emphasize the plain quality, the plainer quality of the surface it's on, and make some of my strokes kind of either they'll slant away or maybe they'll even radiate out, kind of like this. Yeah, that's not bad. But I want there to be a sense that this thing is on something, that they're not nailed onto a vertical surface, right? That they're kind of on a flat plane, and this is where you're standing. And so all of this moves away from you. This is a kind of a perspective thing, right? But it doesn't need to be perfect, so don't get too fussy, right? And why did I put that sort of same purple on there? Well, because I want people to know that these are made of the same kinds of things, right? I want there to be, if I were to just draw my cherries all perfect red and then use some other color for the background, I would have a very construction papery kind of looking drawing, right? Where it's like, it would look like a collage. I cut this out and I stuck it on that other thing. And I want this to look like you can feel that there was space around them that had something to do with the actual objects. This is not a good way to describe what I'm talking about, but you more have to feel it. And feeling is such a thing with art. That's what you get when you look at it, and it's what you get when you make it, right? You should be feeling. Like you should be thinking, gee, that is such a curve. Look at how the apex of it is not where I put it at all, but it's so smooth and tight. Like you should be kind of feeling yourself drawing along that edge as you pull your pastel down, right? And I want you to not just fill it all in that way, right? I want to use a variety of colors so that it's optically mixing, right? So I'm going to come in here with some of this super crazy magenta, which is really not going to do it all. But I don't want magenta just to be there. So I better put some in a couple of places. I have so much highlight on these cherries. This could take like a long time. I shouldn't have put so many down. Also, the white of the paper is reflecting on there, but the paper isn't quite white. It's having kind of a blue look. So, but I don't want just to put like isolated bits of pink. So even though I put some there, I'm going to kind of like put some in here too. And even though I don't really observe any there, I'm going to put it there anyway. I'm going to imagine that there could be pink out in there, right? Actually, it's more of a red violet. All right, now this is going to take me a while, so I think what I should do is probably let you go. You can either start yours, or um, you can work on something else and come back. And I'll try to get some of this done, maybe all of it. I don't know. I shouldn't have made it so big. That's a good idea. Let's take that down right now. Um, I'm a little worried about how to get the whole thing done for you without making you watch like hours and hours of video. So I may have to break my own rule and just work on part of it and then show you that. In any case, to be continued, you will hear from me again and not too long. That's all.